Hello, my friends. Welcome to Macon, Georgia. This is wow. This is an incredible city. We just pulled into town. I've never seen the amount of mansions, these antebellum mansions like there are here. We're outside of Atlanta. Macon is not terribly far away, but as I understand, Macon didn't burn the same way that Atlanta did, at least not in its entirety. Right now, though, we are at Rose Hill Cemetery. And Rose Hill it's an incredible cemetery. The Allman Brothers are buried here, but so are quite a few other people. If you've not watched one of my cemetery videos before, we have a couple rules. One, we try not to show any tombstone names of people who have passed away recently, and we try to keep things a little bit more serious and a little bit more solemn to really pay respect that we should. So if you haven't done so already, join us today as we do from Rose Hill Cemetery in Macon, Georgia, just a little exploring.
Boring.
We have just arrived, and as you can see here, the elaborate stonework is quite incredible, and it is definitely an older cemetery. My daughter Kate is joining us today, so if you hear a voice, that's what it is. This is her first time here as well. So if you look over here, these ones, like this one right here, has a date of 1882 when the person passed. So, we're talking about, 150 years. And there's a lot of them here that sort of fall into that same general age. It is on the Register of Historic Places, of course, which is no huge surprise. Looks like some of it is very well taken care of, and some of it probably not quite as well. But we're going to show you some of the incredible things we come across, and of course, we'll take you over by the Allman Brothers while we're here. This section right here is an interesting combination. There's quite a few that were around in the late 1800s, but there's a few that I've seen that have passed away more recently. 1977 was on one of these over here, mixed in with ones that had passed away nearly 100 years before. So I do believe this is still an active cemetery, probably just not as active in this area. Look at the amount of these stones that you see over here in the small area. This, I believe, is a family plot for the Dure family, D-U-R-E. Although I think there's a few other folks in here as well. Just heard an interesting noise behind us over there. May have been a dog. Not sure what, but very, very odd noise. There's an old house or, some sort of building over there. You can see it's being covered by ivy. Obviously, it's been here for a while without a whole lot of people disturbing it. That is definitely not the caretaker house. I'm gonna slowly turn, and right in front of us, you can see the rooftop sticking up of the actual office. Actually, I see what looks like a Civil War general statue sticking up over the wall. That is incredible. I'm not entirely sure how to get over there, but we might find our way over there. We have walked to the very front of the cemetery. You can see that it looks like an old warehouse right next to it. Here's the Gleason tombstone, but these definitely look to be some of the older ones. This is a very large cemetery, by the way. So a few weeks ago, as of the time I'm recording this, it was about 3 weeks to a month ago, I did a couple of videos from a few cemeteries in Jacksonville, Florida. One of which housed the final resting place of several members of the band Lynyrd Skynyrd. This is the area where several members of the Allman Brothers Band have been laid to rest as well. So we're still sort of unofficially following that theme of Southern rock. But this is a cemetery I wanted to see even past that, just because of the enormous history behind it. And as you can see, it is quite incredible. As you can see, there are a lot of pathways that are kind of leading through the entire cemetery. A lot of different areas. They've got different names. Right over here is Cabinus Ridge. This is Eglantine Square. I do want to point out, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this. I see a Star of David on this particular one, as well as the symbol of the Masons, which is an interesting combination. It says here that this particular cemetery was established in 1840, and right inside you see this is the Dunlap crypt. And if you go just a little further, there's a sign that kind of goes through things. Central Avenue, St. Joseph Cemetery, Eglantine Square, Soldier Square, the Terraces, and Carnation Ridge. I have now gone just slightly further down the road, and over here you can see a Jewish area of the cemetery. And actually, a lot of the tombstones are carved with the Hebrew language. Now, I've seen a lot of Jewish areas and cemeteries before. That is not an unusual thing, but I haven't seen a whole lot of them carved in Yiddish before. This is definitely a new thing for me. As you can see, they're very tightly, I don't want to say tightly packed, that's the wrong word, but they're very close together over here, and there's some English, of course, but not as much as one would expect from a cemetery in Georgia. A lot of Hebrew. If you've been to a cemetery before that has a big Jewish section and you've seen a lot of Hebrew on the tombstones, though, please let me know below. Maybe this is not as unusual as I'm thinking it is, but again, it just surprising to me is all. I see a large flag waving over here, which usually would tell us that there is a military section. We'll be heading that way in just a moment, but first I wanted to turn slightly. Right here says Hebrew Burial Ground, established 1844. So again, this is another Jewish area, largely, of course, with Hebrew inscriptions. Look at that little grave down there being reclaimed. Off the top of my head, I would imagine this does not see a lot of newer burials. I do see here the Hebrew Burial Ground, established 1844, Macon's first Jewish cemetery, restored by the Zarks Family Foundation, 1996. Which is seriously pretty impressive when you consider how old a lot of these are. Very ornate, as you can see here, but you know, right here, 1875, 1897, 1879, 1886, and there are quite a few that are even older back here. Walking over towards that flag I pointed out, there's a sign here, Confederate Memorial Day in Macon. So I'm guessing this is the Confederate cemetery I heard about. As you can see, makes its way down to the train tracks over there. Not too uncommon to find Confederate cemeteries in all of Georgia, really, northern Florida, areas like that. Right here it says Rose Hill Cemetery, Recollection in a Bouquet of Yesterday. And this does say here that these are the Confederate veterans that have been buried here. Largely, I'm seeing names, but I'm not seeing a lot of dates. As you could turn, you could see how stacked a lot of the different plots are, different heights and different plateaus. really interesting. I've not seen anything like this before. Coming around the bend a little bit, you can see it is actually a very narrow drive. You certainly aren't going to fit 2 cars through here, and I was debating whether or not I was going to fit my 1 car. But going down here, I believe that is the final resting place of the Allman Brothers, Gregg and Duane. So I'm gonna head down there. As you can see, there's somebody else over there taking some photos as well. Certainly some older stones back here. I want to see what this one says. Bartlett. No real date on there, but you can see from some of these they're definitely a little bit smaller. But when you come across, as you can see, this is definitely a little bit more modern, very well taken care of. Little staircase going down. And as we reach the bottom, there's quite the view. And right over here, Butch Trucks. May 11th, 1947, January 24th, 2017. Walking slightly further, we have the grave of Gregg Allman, 8th of December 1947 to May 27th, 2017. So he passed away right afterwards. And then, of course, you walk just slightly further down. Duane Allman, November 20th, 1946, October 29th, 1971. Unfortunately, he passed away very young after a motorcycle accident. And of course, over here, Raymond Barry Oakley, Chicago, 1940. I cannot see the date because it's covered. Set free November 11th, 1972. I believe he too was in a motorcycle accident not long afterwards. They also have some family members. I'm gonna not go into all of that, respect their privacy, but you can see they have their own little area over here. And there's a stone here, preservation patrons. Quite a sight. I don't want to stay down there too long. My car is parked at the top of the hill, and like I said, it is a very narrow space. So on the chance that somebody's coming through, I want to get back up there. But if you come out here, down in the ravine here is where you're going to find this memorial to the Allman Brothers Bands. Also, in case you didn't see when I was pointing this out before, this narrow area, there are some tombstones that have toppled over by that tree. Unfortunately, that happens a lot. Just a little bit of a public service announcement. We just came up here. There were a lot of other areas down there we really wanted to see, but the roads became way too narrow and overgrown, and you kind of go off of ravines. So I didn't want to stay down there anymore, and we kind of came back up. As you can see, there are some very overgrown areas right here, but I want to give you a quick scope and scale of what we're talking about. Obviously, it's even larger when you consider that there are different levels. So, you know, you'll have a level of plot, then it'll go down, and so on and so forth. But very large, very ornate, keeps going way back there. There's a lot of areas that we're not going to see today just because we honestly would have a lot of trouble reaching them safely. We could walk to them, but we cannot take a car anywhere near them. And candidly, there's a lot of areas here that I don't even really know how you get to them. They do a good job of trying to mark everything, though. There's not a lot of context behind what they have here, but at least they do show you what the areas are called. Some very elaborate stones over here. This looks like the Ross plot, 1877, 1958, I think. It's kind of scratched out, hard to read for sure. But certainly some more Victorian-looking stones right through this area. Yeah, these folks all passed away in the 1800s as well. And they look down the hill, you can see most of these seem to be arranged in layered small plots. Wow. Having come from, most recently, Florida cemeteries, where there's not a lot of older interments like this, just because Florida is generally a younger state, and certainly not a lot of stonework like this. This is incredible. This reminds me a lot more of a northern style cemetery. Well, not so much the layering, but the stonework. As you can see here, the hills slope down and it opens up to yet another large area of this particular cemetery. From what I understand, there are hundreds, somewhere around 600 slaves that have been buried here. A lot of them are unfortunately unmarked. There's also a lot of founders of Macon that are interned here. And from what I've heard and read, even though there are a few burials that still take place here, relatively few, the cemetery is not really in the condition that they do a lot here. A lot of the roots from the trees are ripping things up. Trees are actually starting to tumble a little bit, and just in general, it's seen better days, which is not really anything shocking when you take a look at what you see around us. So we're actually going to leave it here. We have a couple of more cemeteries that we want to visit while we are in Georgia, but for the time being, if you haven't done so already, I would appreciate if you hit subscribe if you'd like to join us again in a future video. And I would love to hear from you down below in the comments section. If you know anything about the Hebrew inscriptions on the tombstones, and if that was a big thing around this area, I would love to know more about that. That just fascinates me. In the meantime, I hope you'll join us again next time as we do just a little more exploring.